Welcome to the Scott Townsend Show, brought to you by Dietzo Man Productions.
Without having any faces, without knowing who they are, and then to get started and then week after week see people walking through the doors, sitting in the chairs, and then, learning names and getting to know them, making those connections and hearing their stories. And it's an amazing experience to go from, the phase of just planning and preparing to actually living it out, walking it out, and having some incredible people that have joined this journey that we're on. And so by far, that has been the biggest highlight for the past year.
Hey, this is Scott Townsend. Welcome back to the Scott Townsend Show. And today I have with me returning guest, Jamie Kelly he's the campus pastor at the Pawhuska Campus of CityChurch in Pawhuska.
Yes.
Is there a better way to say that?
No, campus pastor, CityChurch in Pawhuska.
Yeah. So welcome back.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
It's been a year. You and I last spoke November 2020 on the 21st, and today's the 11th, so it's almost a year. And last time we had you on the show, you were just starting out this. You were starting this branch, this campus church in Pawhuska.
Yep.
So that was all new, and now you've celebrated your 1-year anniversary. Which congratulations.
Thank you.
Huge milestone.
Yes.
So I thought I would just have you back. And, last year we talked about you and your Pop-Tarts and where you're from and, the excitement of starting a new branch of the City Church. And, this isn't a church podcast, but what I see this as more of is a study in business. Leadership, people listening to this, they can learn something from this from a leadership standpoint, from a business standpoint. I equate the church as being like a business.
Yeah.
Can you say that?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of principles that apply, in both settings for sure.
So we had the introductions last year. First anniversary, looking back on your year, how did it go?
Okay, so the year has been really incredible. We started November 1st of 2020. So while a lot of churches were kind of still reeling from, COVID and pandemic and all that kind of stuff,
right.
We decided to take this big step, really to take a risk and to launch something that was in our heart. And, the timing, there's probably never perfect timing for really anything. And so we would probably say that the timing of this wasn't perfect or ideal, but we are so glad, so thankful that we went for it when we did. And so now in hindsight, kind of looking back over the last year, just so much has happened. I think one of the greatest highlights for me personally is just been to see all the different people, the different families, the couples, the kids, just the people that God has brought to come be part of our church family. For so long in planning and preparing, you're praying for those people without having any faces, without knowing who they are. And then to get started and then week after week see people walking through the doors, sitting in the chairs, and then, learning names and getting to know them, making those connections and hearing their stories. And it's an amazing experience to go from, the phase of just planning and preparing to actually living it out, walking it out, and having some incredible people that have joined this journey that we're on. And so by far, that has been the biggest highlight for the past year.
I had asked you what 5 things have you learned from your first year? I don't know if we can go into 5 things, but what are some of the things that you and your wife, Ashley, what have you guys learned this last year? that kind of, maybe it's a surprise, maybe it's not. I don't know.
Yeah. I think, to be honest, all the things that we've learned, it was probably things that we would have said we already knew. But when you're kind of faced with actually having to walk it out and live it out, I think it drops from your head to your heart and it becomes much more real. And so one of the first things was just kind of figuring out that, obviously we're a church, people of faith, that we can only do so much. We can only do what we can do. We do our best to be faithful, to do our part. But then there's a huge element where we just have to trust God to do his part. And so there's been plenty of times throughout the course of the year where I've felt the pressure to make things happen. And so kind of coming to the realization that I really can only do what I can do, and I'm going to do the best that I can do and do my best to check the boxes and do what I know to do. And then there's a huge part that where I just really have to let go and let God do his thing. And when I look back over the year, when I think about all the different people that have come to be part of the church, I've really had very little to do with some of the best parts. And, we've showed up, we've done our best to be faithful, and we really have seen God do his part and to do things that we never could have done in our own strength. Another thing that that I'm kind of actively learning right now is, especially in a small church setting in a small town, it's probably amplified, but people have expectations of you, and a lot of people have their idea of what they think you should be doing, what they think you should be doing with your time, and kind of coming to the realization that I'm going to disappoint people. By nature, I'm a people pleaser. I want to fulfill those expectations that people have for me, but kind of coming to understanding that if I live that way, if I lead that way, I will have nothing left. And so kind of learning the time management, really having to put into practice some boundaries and understand my own limits. Another thing is, there's been plenty of opportunities that have come our way over the last year, and being a new church, kind of being in
Opportunities
this,
for what?
opportunities for ministry, opportunities for outreach, opportunities to help people, just opportunities to do what we would do as a church. But I think needing to understand the season that we're in as a church, and that we can't say yes to everything. That opportunity usually outweighs resources. And so we only have so much money, we only have so much time, only have so much energy. And so really having to know what's most important for this season, when to say yes, when to say no, and it's okay. Because otherwise we'll end up not doing anything well if we're stretched so thin. And then one of the biggest takeaways of the year is just really understanding the importance of relationships, whether that is key relationships in the community or just relationships within the church. It's really what has made our campus so special, is that we truly are a family, and we have such an incredible core of people that they're not just attenders, they don't just show up, but they're all in. And there's been, in a short period of time, some deep relationships that have been made and formed, and that's really what makes it worth it. That's what it's all about. We're in the people business, you know what I mean? Introducing people to Jesus, into faith. And that's really what a church is. It is a family. And so understanding that and leaning into that's been really special.
Are you a good delegator?
I have my moments where I'm good. That is probably another thing I could add to the list of, things I'm learning to get better at. It's one of those things that, it's in all the books. It's
Right.
Any type of leadership talk, you have to delegate.
It's one of those
It's-
head to heart things.
Yeah. And so I think it's one of those things where I'm realizing more and more I have to do, in order to really focus on the things that I'm meant to focus on. And so there have been different things that, I kind of see it. There's probably a lot of things right now that I should delegate. But part of leadership is raising up people and empowering people. And so it's kind of in that phase right now of identifying, okay, what is next to let go of, and then who are those people, who's the right person to take that
Right.
on. And then there's an investment season of making sure that they're ready, and then the handoff part. And so
Hmm.
there have been some things where we've done that, and it's been awesome, and it's a huge blessing to me personally. And then there's some things that right now we're in the middle of that, and then some things that, here soon we'll need to start that process. So I think I'm probably not awesome at it, but hoping to get better, and in the process of working on it.
When you look at your volunteers and your team, um, do you tell them what to do, or do you tell them why they're doing what you are asking?
Yeah, I think it's a little of both. I think one of the important practices that we've started from the beginning was, before service, all of our volunteers will meet together for just like a huddle. And it really just takes a few minutes, but it's an opportunity on a weekly basis to kind of remind ourselves of why we're here and why we're doing what we're doing. And, in time that can become a little mundane and can become just, so this is what we do. And so I think it's important to try to keep that fresh. And I think one of the most important motivators is sharing stories. And
Hmm.
so when there have been times where we've seen significant things happen in the church, sharing that, and I
Hmm.
think that motivates more than anything. And then I think also having a compelling vision, keeping that before everybody, this is why we do what we do. Um, yes, and so we do try to do that. Otherwise we're just filling spots, and I don't ever want it to be that for a volunteer or for someone that's part of what we're doing. I mean, we are a mission-minded organization, and we believe we have the greatest mission on planet Earth. And so
Just
what
your
a
church or all
oh,
churches?
no, of course, all churches. Yeah, capital C church. um and so, to lose sight of that, I think, is a huge shame. And so I think part of our job as leaders is to always keep that front and center, and that motivates for sure.
You said a while ago, I wrote it down. You said, what's most important? I can't remember what you said before that. Uh, what is most important for you and your team and your group
Yeah,
over there?
well, I think just practically speaking, Sunday service, making that happen. Currently we do, we started the campus with a huge launch team from our Bartlesville campus. So they came over and really made church happen. And
Uh-oh, you froze up.
Bartlesville, uh, Bartlesville people with Pawhuska people, and letting them take ownership of that. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, and
Okay.
now I can. Yeah,
Okay.
you froze up
Okay.
there for a second, but
I think I
okay.
lost connection for a minute. And so I say that probably one of the things that's, important for us, Sundays are great. That's that Sunday, our service that we do on Sunday evenings, that um, we are training and replacing our Bartlesville team with Pawhuska church family, and working towards some of the key areas like kids and AV and worship, which are kind of sticky points for us, and are the areas that are keeping us from moving to Sunday morning service. Of course, most people attend church in the morning, and our service is in the evening. And so we are wanting to change that, but we need to kind of raise up more team from the community that we're in order to make that happen. So I think that's a huge thing that we're needing to focus on. And then also, in addition to that, kids and youth and outreach are a big part of what we want to accomplish in the community. And so we've made some big strides in our youth ministry, and are wanting to make even bigger strides in the year to come. We've done a lot of outreach this past year and want to continue to keep that at the forefront. Um, and so, yeah, I would say those things are probably what's most important to us.
So last year you started in Tri-County Tech Building.
Yes. Yep.
A year ago. Are you still there? And what's the...
Yeah, we are still there and have another lease signed for another year. And it's amazing. The facility is incredible for us. It's we have no complaints. It's been great. We did this within the last few months, we actually did purchase a property in Pawhuska. And so it was kind of opportunistic. The opportunity kind of presented itself. It was an amazing deal. It's a great property. And so we went for it. And it's something that we will kind of work towards. It's not something that we're going to go ahead and just kind of jump into, because there's work that needs to be done to expand it and kind of make it what it would need to be to fully accommodate us as a church. But that was a huge step for us in our first year to already have purchased a property. So that was a huge win and a big highlight for sure.
Right.
And the focus for us moving forward will be to to raise the funds to be able to complete it, and then eventually to move into it. And so so that's pretty exciting. But our current facility at Tri-County has been amazing, and our relationships with Tri-County have been incredible, and so it's definitely been a kind of a godsend for us.
Hey, this is Scott Townsend, and this is November 2021. And for the last several Novembers, I've been participating in the Movember movement. So this year, decided to start a team, and that team is the Scott Townsend Show team. So all you listeners, watchers out there, if you'd like to join me, I've been not shaving since November 1st, but started investigating more about this and found out that you can create a team. So here we go. I'm going to create a team. And my goal is $200. So here's the official communication here. Did you know that on average, men die 6 years earlier than women, and for reasons that are largely preventable? It's a global problem that demands out-of-the-box thinking, which is why I'm taking on a challenge of epic proportions to raise funds for Movember and stop men dying too young. It's called the Mow Your Own Way, and for me, it looks like this. You'll see down below. The money I raise will help fund groundbreaking projects across mental health and suicide prevention, prostate cancer, and testicular cancer. Movember has funded 1,250 game-changing health projects so far. But there are millions more fathers, partners, brothers, and sons and friends to reach. That's where I come in, and that's where you come in. I've set myself a bold task and an ambitious fundraising target. Your donation, big or small, will help me get there. So donating is easy. Just follow the link to my Mo space below. You'll also be able to track your progress. So can I count on your support? Together we can change the face of men's health. So there you go. Check that out. Donate. I ask you guys to donate $10. I donated 25. You'll see it when you go to my page. I'd like to hit the 200 number. So let's see what we can do. And now back to the program. Pop's Daylight Donuts. Man, they've got the best tasting donuts, sausage wraps, pastries, Northeast Oklahoma. And also, if you'll tell the staff there, hey, Scott Townsend said to give me a large spicy pig, they'll give you a free large spicy sausage wrap. But you have to tell them Scott Townsend sent you. So
tell them, hey, Scott Townsend told me to tell you to give me a large spicy pig. So there's the offer. There's the call to action. So go to Pop's Daylight Donuts. Say hi to Mark for me. And go to Pop's Daylight Donuts and get you some.
Looking back on your year, what was one of the scariest things? What's the one thing that kept you up at night?
Is anybody going to come? I think any church planner, that's the number one thing, is like, will people even show up? And so thankfully every week we've had people show, and especially here over the last several months have had some new momentum, fresh momentum, which has been really awesome, and we're enjoying that. But yeah, I think especially that first week, I was kind of pacing, especially just kind of hanging by the window, looking out at the parking lot, counting every car that comes. And, like I said before, you can only do your part, then you have to trust God to do his part. And so, I can't control who comes, who doesn't come. But we can make sure that we show up and do our best to have a great service, to reach out in the community, get the word out. And then just, trust that God will move on hearts to get people there. And that's exactly what's happened. So that's definitely been the thing that has kept me up the most, and probably my biggest personal challenge to overcome is just managing my own emotions and expectations, and just kind of getting over myself in some ways, and being thankful for who God does bring. And so that's probably been also my biggest challenge.
What's the emotion? Is it depression? What are you talking about?
Not depression, but I think discouragement, can be, when you have a Sunday where maybe it's down, attendance is down for whatever reason, or people come and then you don't see them, they don't come back, or, you kind of, especially in the beginning, kind of hoping that more people were there. And so, you just kind of go in, maybe not knowing what to expect, but you kind of do have an expectation of a full room. And when that doesn't quite happen, it can be disappointing. And so I think I don't know that anyone else was disappointed. It was just probably more me at having some moments of like, man, I really wish more people were here. What do we do? How can we make that happen?
Maybe some unrealistic expectations.
Yeah, potentially. And to remembering that Pawhuska it's a small community, and we're used to our scale in Bartlesville, which Bartlesville is a smaller community, but Pawhuska is just 1/10 of Bartlesville. Right. And so kind of changing my metrics and my understanding of what is good for a community the size of Pawhuska, and then understanding that actually we've been very successful for the community, and kind of being okay with that, not settling at all, but being okay, like, hey, we actually are doing really well. And so I've had my moments, so kind of up and down moments, some Sundays where I leave a little bummed, but then other Sundays where it's like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And there's been much more weeks, far away, where it's like, oh, this is incredible.
Well, I appreciate your honesty, vulnerability there. And forgive me if these questions are prying, but a lot of times most people don't get to see behind the scenes of a church.
Right.
Most people don't get to see Monday through Saturday.
Yep.
They only see an hour and a half, if that. So everybody's dressed nice.
Right.
The place looks great. The lights, cameras, fog, whatever, singing. And so it's this kind of really over the top, glamorous, almost illusion, one stained glass. But then the Monday through Saturday, all the work, all the stress, all the cleaning, maintenance, there's a lot to it. And I think a lot of people don't. Volunteers, how to keep volunteers motivated. Yeah. Not only do you want people to show up on Sunday, but you want your volunteers to come back
Yeah.
Because most of your assets walk out the door every Sunday, and you hope they're going
Right.
to come back.
Hope that they'll show back up. Yep.
Yeah. So that's I appreciate you kind of pulling back the curtain and
Yeah.
letting us see what this first year has been like. What's been your greatest accomplishment this year? What would you say that might be?
I think that we really quickly developed a core group of people within the church that were just all in. I was actually amazed how fast that happened. Just deep relationships, loving, caring, and it just the rate that happened kind of surprised me. Of course, that happened primarily through kind of a midweek small group setting where we would gather and share a meal together and Bible study, that sort of thing. And it can just get a little bit more personal in a smaller setting. And so it's pretty amazing that how quickly that happened. And I would say I'm not sure that I personally, made that happen. Definitely not. But I think it was just kind of creating the space for it to happen. And then I would say that has been one of, or maybe the kind of biggest win for our church. We've had people come to Christ and recommit their life to Christ and baptisms and all that. So of course that's amazing. And that's why we exist as a church. And then I think just the discipleship that's taken place through relationships, specifically within our core, I think has been our greatest accomplishment up to this point.
What are some of your plans for the upcoming year? What's so what's up ahead?
We a few things. We, like I mentioned, the building. We are wanting to launch what we're calling City Rising, which is in a way like a building kind of campaign in a sense, but we do want to begin raising funds for our new building to be able to do the renovations and the construction that we want to do. At this point, we don't necessarily have like a fixed timeline for that, but I think that we do want to get the vision out there, do want to communicate the need and why it's important and what that's all about. And so that's something that we want to kick off at the beginning of the new year. Something that's important to me is we do have a youth group that started, and it's kind of like a seed right now. It's kind of, we've got a process in place, we've got a team in place, and really want to start going after kids and promoting and building that. It's a huge reason why we launched in Pawhuska is youth ministry. And so I think we're kind of getting to a place now where we can kind of really start going after that. And then too, like I mentioned, our small group we have several small groups, but those have been a really important part of the church. And I think we'll have opportunities to expand our small groups in the next year and continue to create opportunities for those relationships and core relationships to form, which I think is kind of the backbone of the church. So, yeah.
I'm kind of surprised you didn't mention actually moving to Pawhuska.
Yeah. That was a huge part of this last year. Definitely one of the highlights. Actually relocating to Pawhuska
might depend on which kid you ask.
Yes. Yeah. It's actually been a win for our whole family. From the beginning, it wasn't necessarily like set that that's what we were going to do. It was always a possibility, but we didn't know if we would actually do that or what that would look like, when we would do that. And so it was a big, kind of a point of discussion for my wife and I, and just honestly didn't have a lot of clarity on what would be right. If it was just my wife and I, it would be an easy decision, but we do have 3 kids. And it obviously impacts them in a big way. Pawhuska is not that far from Bartlesville. We were already making it work, all those things. And so kind of how that unfolded was we prayed about it and just got, God make it clear to us. And there had been a home that I was aware of that had been for sale, but and I, you know, always saw that home as being a good fit for our family, but we weren't in a place to pursue it, and it sold. We'll come to find out it's sold to a family in our church. And after just living there 6 months, they decided to go ahead and build a home on some property that they had. And so they're going to be selling this home. And so they invited us to come take a look at it. And it was while we were looking at the house, while we were walking through, where it just kind of was settled for us, like in that moment, like, yeah, I think this is what we're supposed to do. And so we took the step and made the move. And that was this last summer. And again, hindsight's always 2020, but we couldn't imagine not living in Pawhuska now. It's made all the
Right.
difference. Really helped us to feel more part of the community, to build better relationships, get to know people in the community. Our kids are, in the Pawhuska school system, and it's been a great experience. So we're so thankful that we did it. It was a big decision, and it was another risk for us. But it has absolutely paid off. And so we're very thankful that we made that move.
What's your leadership style, and how has that helped you?
Oh, tough question. I think I'm pretty relational. And so I enjoy spending time with people that I lead. I think that the way that that's helped is I've been able to build trust pretty quickly with people. And so, we have a lot of people, but we have several couples that are from Pawhuska Campus, but have really been, right there with us in launching the church. And I don't know that we really would have been able to do what we've done without them. And I'm just always shocked and amazed by how much they trust us, how much they're in. Both couples are actually looking to relocate to Pawhuska along with us. And so I think just, both my wife and I both, kind of lean into trying to build those relationships with people, genuinely care for them. And in turn, there's no ulterior motive in that, but in turn, what happens is it results in a deep trust. And, we're constantly shocked by how much people are with us when it comes to kind of moving forward with the church.
That's great.
Yeah.
You in Pawhuska, if anybody's listening,
Mhm.
watching, what would you say to your market there in Pawhuska?
Yeah.
Should they check out your church or not?
They absolutely should check out our church, as long as they're not part of another church. In Pawhuska, another surprise was how well received we've been as a church with other churches and other pastors, and they've been very supportive. There's a strong ministerial alliance that we're part of, and it's just a group of churches that work together to do great things in the community. And so we don't ever want to, rob anybody, for sure. And so, but I would just say, if you don't have a church home, I think you should have a church home, and we would love for you to come check out CityChurch. And if it's not a good fit, there are other great churches in the community that we can help you get connected with. But we're obviously a new church, and so with that comes a lot of excitement and a lot of new. And so I think it's an amazing time to jump into our church family. We have a lot of exciting things coming up, a lot of things we want to do in the community to make a difference and to make an impact. And it's just a lot of fun to be part of. And so if that sounds good, then come on and come be part of what God's doing here.
I talked to Brett Thomason
Yeah.
On another podcast, and he did mention that he had actually been to your church, and
Yep.
he's the preacher at the Methodist church.
Methodist. Yep. He's a great
cool.
guy. He showed up to our launch day. as kind of a representative of the Ministry Alliance. So it was great to have, his support, and he's one of many pastors out there that have been very supportive of us.
What's next for Jamie Kelly? Is this you right now? What 5 years from now? I mean, who knows what you're going to do in 5 years, but what's your overall, do you have any overall goals?
No, to be totally honest, I think if you were to ask me that a couple of years ago, I would say launching a church. And well, now we've done that, and we love it, and we're loving every moment of it. And so we're locked and committed to doing this for as long as God has for us to do it. So we have no plans to do anything else. No, we're not looking on the horizon. This isn't a step to a step. We're here. We're doing what we love to do, doing what we feel that we're called to do. And there's no greater feeling in the world than to feel like you're right where God would have you be, where he's gifted you to be. And so we've grown a lot. We've learned a lot. We know that there's a lot more to learn and to grow into. But we're excited to continue to make a difference in Pawhuska, and we're just loving every moment. So this is it. This is what's next for us, is to just continue showing up and being faithful and see what God does.
So someone walks up to you and says they're going to plant a church. They want to do that.
Yeah.
Knowing what you know now, you're having lunch and you say, look, buddy, this is what you need to know. What would that be?
I think probably the biggest thing, I think the biggest challenges are just internal challenges. There's a lot of external things that obviously hurdles to overcome. But in my experience, the greatest hurdles are your own battles within your own soul and mind. And, everyone comes with insecurities and self-doubt, or maybe not, but there's usually something on the inside. And that's something I think kind of rears its head when you're kind of in the pressure of, starting something new and kind of getting in unfamiliar territory. And so I think it's important to be self-aware and have people in your life that can kind of speak to that and can encourage you. I think you definitely want to have people around you that are encouragers. That's been one of the greatest blessings that I've had through the process, is to have great people. My pastor Scott Mary, but then also just key volunteers that I trust their input, that have been affirming and encouraging the whole way through. And so I think, just be ready to face your own insecurities and your own kind of emotional ups and downs, and have good things in place to help you deal with that, I think is probably most important.
So you mentioned you go to your pastors, Scott and Mary, and some key volunteers. Where else do you go for motivation, inspiration, learning, to help keep moving forward and overcome some of those doubts and fears?
Yeah, I'm a big podcast listener, so I really appreciate what you do. And so I have several podcasts and of course I have a drive. I several days a week, of course, I come into Bartlesville to work at the Bartlesville campus, and that sort of thing. And so I've got a 40-minute drive several times a week. So I get to kind of download a lot of information. And so I think that's a huge one for me. I do enjoy reading. I'm just kind of a slow reader, and so I've got got several small groups that I'm a part of, and so I try to choose material that obviously is good for the guys in my group, but then specifically too, that's something that I can get something out of as well. And so I'm currently reading a book on prayer, something that I've felt personally challenged in, and so no huge revelation here, but just kind of trying to input, whether it's listening or reading, just trying to constantly put things in me that I can draw out of or challenge me. And so, yeah.
Yesterday, I interviewed Eric Rostad with the Books of Titans podcast. He was on the show, and we were talking about reading, and And you mentioned you're a slow reader, and he said he's a slow reader. I mean, he's an avid reader, and but he admitted that he was a slow reader, and that used to. I guess sometimes we think, and I am too. Sometimes we think we have to be fast readers. I don't know where that came from.
Yeah, yeah. I think
you have to be a fast reader.
I think we probably value quantity. Like how many books we're reading, but it's probably more important if you're trying to grow. Probably more important, like the quality of it and actually internalizing it and getting. I mean, how many things have I read or listened to where I'm like, that's great, but then I don't apply any of it. It just becomes information, but doesn't help transform anything. And so I'm probably great at starting books, not always great at finishing the last little bit, but it's something that I want to be a discipline in my life. And
I'm reading the Rockefeller's called Titan.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a big boy.
But I used to let books like this intimidate me until I realized, if I read 20, 30 pages a day, I'm doing that anyway. Who cares how thick the book is?
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
No.
Yeah,
so,
that's a good perspective.
I'm starting to read a lot of big, thick books now. So anyway.
Man.
What'd you have for breakfast this morning?
I knew you were going to ask that question, and unfortunately, I had no breakfast. I ran out of the house with nothing in the tank, so I hope you don't hear it, but the stomach is grumbling a bit, so lunch is approaching.
It is, and I need to let you go so you can go have lunch, but really appreciate you coming back, and it's a good conversation.
Thanks for having me back. Yep, I really appreciate it.
Let's do it again next year.
Sounds great.
It's interesting to see the perspective, the changes, and wish you all the best and growth and health and safety for you and your family, and wisdom to know what to do.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So for Jamie Kelly, this is Scott Townsend. Thanks for watching and listening to the Scott Townsend Show. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you later.
The Scott Townsend Show is a Deetso Man production. For more episodes, visit the Scott Townsend Show YouTube channel, listen on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.